Today's episode of Strong Links is brought to you by Dan and Van, Sleaford and the surrounding area's #1 man with a van service. And now for today's show.
Hello and welcome to Extra Strong Links, a bonus episode of the Strong Links podcast, brought to you in association with your local Links magazine. My name's Rich, and I'm here with my good friend Dan.
Hey Rich, how you doing?
I'm pretty hot this
I
evening.
know, I think we're recording this on the hottest day of, what is it, the year so far?
Yeah, the hottest June day. I've heard it mentioned on the news earlier, since records began or whatever. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
So,
it certainly feels it.
Yeah, we've had the fans on, but we've turned them off for recording, so we're gonna melt as we talk. So this month we're joined by a remarkable Lincolnshire filmmaking team, father and son duo Andy and Callum Byrne. Now, their latest feature film, Landship, has just enjoyed its premiere at the prestigious Raindance Film Festival in London, marking a huge milestone in their filmmaking journey. We'll be talking about the inspiration behind the film, the challenges of independent filmmaking, and what it's like creating movies together. Andy and Callum, welcome to Extra Strong Links.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
How are we enjoying the hot weather? Are we coping?
Right. Yeah, coping, staying indoors. One minute I'm moaning because it's cold and wet, next minute I'm moaning because it's hot. Yeah, I'm like Goldilocks. It's never just right.
Yeah.
It's never just right.
So you're a father and son filmmaking team. How did that partnership come about, and when did you realise that you work so well creatively together?
Tomorrow. Yeah, you want to go? You want to answer that?
Well, it all began 34 years ago
Yeah.
when I was born. So in terms of the filmmaking side of things, my dad's always been interested in film, always loved film since he was a kid. Growing up watching Lawrence of Arabia and the Dam Busters and all kind of the classic war films and the like. And then when I was a kid, I grew up fascinated with film. Obviously, for me, camcorders and stuff were a lot more readily available than when my dad was growing up. So I'd run around with the family camcorder with my cousins, making short films and animations and that sort of thing. And then eventually, when I got to secondary school, I kind of realised it was something that I wanted to pursue as a job. Went to film school, and then when I was at film school, we decided to set up Tin Hat Productions. So essentially, it was a day when you came down for.
Yeah, I came down to visit you because he was at Ealing Studios. I was like any excuse to go down and have a mooch.
Yeah.
So it was one of the days I went down for a mooch. So he had some time, and we went around the studios and looked at, and there's plaques outside saying, shows, so this was made here and this was made here. So, there's a studio that Met Film School used to use. You'll probably remember which studio it is.
I think it was a stage one.
Stage one. But, and it's got, plaque that says The Cruel Sea and Whiskey Galore and all these, and a lot of the old Ealing comedies were made there. The Lady Killers and things like that.
Classic.
Yeah. So, but it was the war film thing that really caught me that day, and I went, I think we could do this. We could bring back those kind of British war films on a budget, and that was kind of where it started.
So Tin Hat Productions started when you were
At film school. I don't think it was like an official company until just after, was it? But we were
the
calling
concept,
ourselves Tin Hat. So I made a short film in 2012. Well, we made a short film, sorry, but it was part of my film school called Fusilier, which it was Tin Hat Productions then was set up. That was our first production, and then we made a second film, actually a short film based on Landship in 2013. And then I think it was a few months after that, then we set up Tin Hat Productions officially. I think it was that autumn.
Yeah, it was for the first conversation. I think we were in the pub, and I said, "I reckon this is what we should do. We need a genre, and we make the genre war films, and we didn't have a name." And I think it was that slightly sort of inebriated night where I came up with the idea of Tin Hat Productions. I said, "I think we should call it this," and then Jeff one of the actors, Jeff Mundell, one of the actors that we always work with. He's also a really good sort of illustrator and stuff. And I think Callum said to him, "Could you design us a logo?"
Oh, yeah.
And he came up with that logo with the sort of the guy with the tin hat with the projector.
So Jeff came up with that. That's amazing.
Yeah. Jeff, he's a clever guy. Jeff. He's got many strings to his bow.
Yeah. Now, well known now for making fantastic movies set during both the First and Second World Wars. Looking back at your previous films and projects, which one do you think was the biggest stepping stone towards where you are today?
Lancaster Skies.
Yeah, it has to be Lancaster Skies. That was our first feature film that we started filming in 2015.
Yeah.
I mean, we started writing it 2013, 2014, I think. It was a long old slog. So basically, that was our first feature. We didn't have any idea of distribution and that sort of thing back then. It was just, okay, we want to make a feature. Let's make it about Lancaster Bomber, because that seems like a genre and a subject matter that will appeal to people. And foolishly went out making it, tried to get funding from the BFI and Creative England, and that didn't happen. And eventually we realised we'd have to make it for next to nothing. Made it over 4 or 5 years. It was a long time.
Yeah, there was a big gap between
Sort of 3 years of shooting, I think, really, and then ages, because then we shot with like the principal photography, but we really didn't have any idea how we were going to do the VFX, the visual effects. We just had no idea how we were going to capture the Lancasters in flight and that kind of thing. We just kind of like lurched from problem to problem, and then solve them as they present themselves, as opposed to just sort that one bit out and then we'll move on and worry about this bit later. So it's pretty stressful at times, but we got there in the end. I mean, you look back at it now and it all seems fairly stress-free, but at the time it was very, very stressful indeed.
Yeah. I suppose if you're learning as you go along, you're actually learning new skills that that you've used in future projects.
We're never afraid to ask people what to do. So if you think, okay, we want to shoot with models, then go and find the people that do it and ask them.
Yeah.
Don't just try and wing it.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, people in the industry are really interested in helping you. So we contacted. I said, well, who better to contact than the Anderson family? Because nobody did models better than Jerry Anderson.
Yeah.
So we did, and they put us in touch with a guy called Mike Tucker, who was a VFX, an SFX artist on loads of Bond films and stuff back in the day when they used a lot of models.
Right.
But when they made 3 new Thunderbirds episodes, and he was on board for that. I think about 7 or 8 years ago now. Right. And so he was the guy we spoke to, and he just gave us loads of really interesting, really simple ideas if you think about it. But like hanging models upside down and strings, and then flipping the image afterwards, because nobody looks for strings underneath the. Yeah. Just really simple things like that, but really smart.
That's amazing.
And so kind of we've got really a cupboard full of skill sets, really, which then I think on Landship have really come to the fore. Yeah,
I've worked with Jamie Anderson.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of the guy's name is Mike. He died, unfortunately.
He was Richard something.
Oh, is it Richard?
Yeah,
he was great.
He worked on that John Carter film. I remember him going on about that.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, he passed away, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
Somebody else has just died very recently, because I follow Mike Tucker on Facebook, and he posted something the other day of another SFX artist that's just passed away. But I suppose if you think about it, they're probably of that age now. They're 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
But if you're working on the Bond films, I think he worked on the Roger Moore Bond films, so it was, that's a long time ago now.
Yeah, 50 years ago. Yeah.
I remember following in the local press about your journey with Lancaster Skies, and I remember you went by a different title at first, didn't you? Was it Our Shining?
It was Our Shining Sword, yeah. That was kind of like
was that a working title or?
No, actually, it was it was Sam, the DOP, that came up with that, because he'd read an account, a story. Basically, at the end of the war, Arthur Harris wrote a letter, to Avro, I think, but basically where he described the Lancaster bomber as a shining sword.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's where that came from.
Oh,
But then
right.
when it came to like, distribution, it was like no one's going to get what that means. So it
Yeah.
went-
The other type's more commercial, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
Do you still have the Lancaster sets? You built your own, didn't you?
The set now lives at the Wilmington Game Museum in Freeston Shore near Boston.
Oh.
He's got it in his sort of, they've got 3 or 4 buildings now, and he's got it in one of their buildings, and he's got a flight simulator in it.
Oh, wow.
It's really good. It's well worth a visit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well worth a visit. Really good museum. Yeah, but so it lives on.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah.
That's good.
So let's turn to your latest project, Landship. Now, for anyone who hasn't heard about it yet, what's the story and what drew you to it?
So the story is it's based on a true story of a World War I tank that in 1917, during the Battle of Passchendaele, became stuck in a shell crater. And instead of abandoning the tank and returning to British lines, the crew decided to stay put, and they stayed there for over 60 hours. Incredibly close to German lines, and they came under constant attack. They were shelled by their own lines, and they went on to become the most highly decorated tanker of the First World War. All of them, amazingly, apart bar one, survived, and it was a story that we came across. What about it? 12, 14 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, BBC documentary called The First World War from Above, and it was about someone had discovered a piece of film that was shot by a French aviator in 1919. He flew his airship over the battlefield when everybody had gone home, basically, but everything was still just laying there, the detritus of war, and F-41 was there in this photograph, and then from that they very briefly told of what happened, and then I just remember the following morning having coffee and saying, God, that made a good film. And that was it, really. We were like, okay, we've got to find a way of doing it then. So as a short film, because Callum at that point was still at film school, so it became your graduate film, didn't it? Yeah. So, yeah, we're never afraid, because you look back on it and think, what were we thinking? Okay, how are we going to do that? I don't know, but let's do it anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, for you to spot something so relatively sort of, I don't know, I don't want to, insignificant, he's flying over, sees a tank, a kind of a stranded tank, but for you to then create a story, which is quite a moving story.
Well, from that we realised we found out more information, and it turned out that amongst kind of like people that know about the First World War and know particularly about tanks, that it's quite a well-known tale. Well, it's not. It doesn't appear in many books as such, and there's a couple of accounts in various books. But in like places like the Tank Museum in Bovington and that sort of thing, it was a well-known tale.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
Supposedly the film Fury was based on this story. That someone caught wind of it and went, "Oh, okay."
Yeah,
film about a tank.
the end where they're
Yeah.
stuck in the other crossroads
Yeah.
is supposedly
Yeah,
inspired by.
That this story
mental
was an
story.
inspiration for that.
Oh,
Whether that's
okay.
true or not, I don't know. The trick is that you're trying to take something where there are threads of truth. There is the stuff that you absolutely know, the times and the dates and the people, but lots of other stuff, even first-hand accounts, are actually quite unreliable. So you do end up having to kind of weave your narrative around the stuff that you actually know for sure happened, which is
But the
quite tricky.
the stuff we do know is that they were stranded for, what was it?
60 hours.
60 hours.
Plus, yeah.
Most of them survived.
Yeah.
I mean, that's quite a thing in itself, isn't
Yeah.
it? So, yeah.
I mean, there probably were many other tales, similar tales, where, because the tanks ditched a lot, but where they meant that they didn't survive. They would have just, the fact that they didn't get hit by a shell is something short of miraculous,
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
And one shell, that would have just killed a lot of them, and that would have been the end of that. It probably wouldn't have been such a legendary tale, but the fact that that didn't happen,
Yeah.
and that somehow they survived against the law of averages were against them,
Yeah.
and they survived.
Yeah.
And nobody, I mean, we love the British, I think, more than any other nation on earth, love stories like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
The underdog.
Yeah. Yeah. And the tanks would have been built in Lincoln?
Yeah, so they were built I think they were built up and down the country, but there was the Mark IV. There was 100, I think it was 100 or 101. 101 of those tanks built in Lincoln, and F-41 Bentos was one of those tanks. We know that tank was built at Foster's, which is now Morrison's. Yeah. Was built on that site, and now that tank sits still in no man's land in Belgium,
somewhere.
Ground,
No one knows exactly where it is yet.
Right.
It's never been found. But.
Wow, that's amazing. To think it was, built where Morrison's is now, down Tritton Road.
We didn't know that until we were well into making the short film. We found that out. The Tank Museum unearthed that information and said, "Oh yeah, it was one of 101." Because they were made. There were many hundreds made. So actually, the odds of it being made in Lincoln were pretty slim.
Right. Right.
Because they were made in a company called Metropolitan, I think, further north. Made them as built under license as well. So it was well, just one of those things. Lots of things like that happened along the way. It's like the commanding officer's grandson walking in to I think it was a meeting of the Friends of the Lincoln Tank, and this bloke just walks in and went, "I'm Donald Richardson's grandson," and they were all like, "Well, you can't be, because surely we'd have heard of you before." And he was, and he had his medals, and he had everything, and that happened. That happened. I think we'd finished shooting, but we hadn't finished the film. So lots of weird things like that happened.
God. Yeah. And that was just coincidence.
I don't know why he had not. I mean, because he was in his 70s by then, and why he had kept such a low profile, I don't know. But I think he found out that there was a group called the Friends of Lincoln Tank, and they had a meeting like once a month, and he went to it. Wow. And then we got a message from a chap called Richard Pullen, who was sort of I think he's the chairman of the Friends of the Lincoln Tank, and he went, "You'll never guess who walked in to our meeting at the weekend." It's crazy. Yeah.
And then since then, we're like other family members,
we've
all
met
kind of
quite a
stepped
few
forward.
now.
But
there were a few of the relatives of the crew at the premiere the other day.
Yeah, so the grandchildren of Donald Richardson were there, John and Richard, and then their kids, and there was also some of the Maury family there.
Yeah.
I also went to the screening on Monday, and there were more Maury family members there and Arthur's family members. So there's quite a few that have seen it. I'm trying to think. There's a couple. I know there's a few that haven't yet.
There's some relatives of Hill, of David's character, Second Lieutenant Hill, are aware. Whether they're going to see the film or not, I don't know.
I think there's some Binleys as well that are aware. I swear there was someone, so Binley contacted us.
Right. Yeah.
They live near Birmingham, or outside Birmingham, I think.
Yeah, but it's amazing how it has, the spider's web of connections has grown and grown and grown.
Yeah.
There isn't a film that we've made where we have that level of connection with people. I mean, mainly because this is the first film really that's based on. You could say all of our films are based on true events, but this is really based on a true story.
Yeah.
Because you could say any war film is based on true events because the wars themselves happened. But this is a true, as close as it can be, a true story.
Yeah. It must be quite moving for yourselves to know that your work's being seen by, family members.
It is because the feedback from them has been amazing.
Yeah. They were very emotional on the Monday when I went. They were all very emotional. I just had nothing but nice things to say about the film. Even the Morris were, because the actor that plays Maury in the feature is Glaswegian.
Yeah.
And they kind of went, he wasn't Glaswegian in real life, and they were absolutely fine with it. They were laughing and joking, but they still absolutely loved it. Because they understood the sentiment. They got what we were trying to do, and that we didn't know they existed a year ago when we were filming.
No.
So that was great. It was really nice. It kind of is more important to us than the reviews.
Yeah, no, it is, because for them to say we really enjoyed it, and what is lovely is they get it, because we will have, and we do have, it happens quite a lot, where you have people, say armchair historians and people sort of couch historians, whatever, I don't know, I don't want to swear, so I won't. But people who think they know better, and who are very critical of some other things that we attempt to do, with no idea really how hard it is. but all these family members got it because what we try and do is get stories out there that otherwise wouldn't get out there, and spread the word, you know. So now, if by making our films, if people decide to research Bomber Command or Fighter Command or the Battle of Britain or whatever, because of our films, then we've done something right. We found out years ago, after we made Lancaster Skies, and we got it in the neck for Lancaster Skies for loads of people for the stuff that we got wrong, because we were really, you know, we were learning then. And the one thing we didn't really have is we didn't have any historical advisors or anything, so we got it in the neck from a lot of people. But then Ryan at the Watergate Yard, he had I think they were a Dutch couple, came, booked in bed and breakfast. They were in Lincolnshire for about a week, and they'd come to Lincolnshire because of Lancaster Skies.
Really?
And then they went to East Kirkby and to the Bomber Command Memorial and all these things, but they only found out about it all and piqued their interest because of Lancaster Skies.
Wow.
So, you know what I mean? Job done.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's
doing a lot for the local tourist industry.
Yeah. But that is, I remember hearing that and thinking, that's it. Then it's worth it, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Because they don't care whether or not somebody salutes with their cap on or their cap off, or, you know. They just want to know, like we do. They want to hear they're invested in the people.
Yeah.
You know.
So tell us about the cast then of Landship. I've noticed some familiar faces that you've actors you've worked with before. Who's in this film? So we've got Vin Hawke, Kevin Hawke. Yeah, I should never call him Vin again, just to annoy him. He's been in all of our films, and he plays Captain John Richardson. We then have David Dobson, who plays George Hill. Again, he's been in all of our projects. You've got a couple of the guys in the tank who have been in one or two of our old stuff, and you've got Jeffrey, who plays the Captain Henriksen, the evil
Captain Henriksen,
who again has been in all of the stuff, played the lead character in Lancaster Skies. The rest of the guys are people that have joined. That when we put out auditions, I think we had like 5,000 applicants or something crazy like that to go through, and they came from that. But probably a mixture of half and half new and half
we stick with people that are good, not just because they're good actors, but also because we know they're reliable. Because that's one of the most important things. You know, shooting stuff is hard, and it means being away from home for a long time. It's a big commitment, and so by working with those core actors that again and again, we know they know the score. Because we have been in situations before where actors kind of go, oh, hang on a minute, this is what I bought into. We did with Landship. I have to say that nobody griped or moaned once. They all just got on with it, and it was pretty hardcore.
It was quite a hard shoot, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was.
Well, you were there for the shoot that we did in Norfolk, which was a walk in the park compared to the 3.5 week shoot we did before that.
Oh, really?
It's completely different kettle of fish, because we had catering and everything, didn't we?
Yeah.
But we didn't have that when we were basically picking up sandwiches from Watergate Yard or whatever. Watergate Yard could throw together for us in the morning, and then driving.
Was this in Ben's barn?
Ben's barn, and it was when we started. It was so cold. It was almost unbearably cold. It was hideous.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
And people were just, and we didn't have. I mean, we built this sort of cabin in the corner, which we christened the Taj Mahal, which is
because it was a work of art.
Yeah, we set up the makeup girls in and a tea urn and all that stuff, and but everybody would just squeeze in there because there was a tiny little fan heater in there because it was so cold. It was, and in the end I ran out and hired a massive space heater, and I was like going out every day and getting more gas. I think we blew the budget on gas with the space heater. It was really tough.
Wow.
Really tough.
Well, I said the other day in the Q&A that it was so cold, like the week or so before when we were painting, there was condensation dripping from the ceiling and hitting the ground and freezing instantly. It was that cold. It was insane. And
I'd been in there making all that. So I'd been making a lot of the component parts, guns and stuff. The big 6-pound gun, but all those big structural parts of the exterior tank I'd made in sections and glued and screwed, but the glue would freeze before it went off. So you'd think, oh, that's gone off, and then you'd remove the screws, and it would just fall apart because it was actually just held together with frozen glue. It was
wow.
Yeah, there were a lot of challenges. Yeah, a lot of challenges. but we got there.
Did you think that added to the conditions added to the scenes in the tank?
No.
Okay.
No, because when people, we've been in situations before. I think we did the first one. I remember people being really hot, and you were filming, I think, close up on David and Vin, and you could see the sweat trickling down their faces. So that kind of added,
Yeah.
But if people are tired and hungry and fed up, they don't do their job so well.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. And it isn't just the actors; it's the crew. I mean, the crew, they had it really tough because the actors were in the tank. For the most part, it was quite warm in there with all those bodies,
Yeah.
But outside, if you were the focus puller, you would have to sit there and really, really concentrate, and you were frozen to the marrow. That's not an easy job to do in the best of circumstances.
No. No. It has its challenges, doesn't it? Acting and being a supporting artist and all that. There's a lot of hanging around, waiting around.
Were you difficult to work with, Dan?
No, I think I behaved myself on this one.
You did.
So
we had one comical moment with Dan where we'd said we want the Germans to sort of like creep up, and everybody. So we had, I don't know if we were doing a take or it was a run through, but all the guys in German uniform, including Dan, were doing this thing where they were sneaking up. But Dan stood out because he was like sort of tiptoeing, like the child catcher in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and I was like, who is that? And so it's Dan, and I was like, it was like the effing child catcher in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
I remember that.
Yeah.
But
And I think we had to say, when we say creep up, we don't mean like in a creepy way. we mean creep up. Like,
do you know what though?
Yeah.
We couldn't see a thing.
No.
I didn't know what I was doing because you cannot. And that's another thing.
Yeah.
To actually fight a war in those uniforms.
Yeah.
How did they do that?
I know.
So heavy.
Yeah.
And we were dry.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if those uniforms were
And you
soaked
weren't wearing
through?
all the kit.
Sorry.
You weren't wearing all the kit. Yeah, you weren't wearing bits of the kit.
Yeah, that's true.
Not all of it.
So heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you get killed, Dan?
Once or twice. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good fun.
I don't know if you ever remember an episode of Bad Puss where they have a chocolate biscuit making machine. Do you ever remember it? And they find this machine and the mice are making chocolate biscuits. And the chocolate biscuit rolls down the chute and then Bad Puss can eat it, Professor Yaffle can eat it, they grab it and take it away. And they're like, wow, this is amazing. And then it transpires that it's only got one chocolate biscuit. They just keep recycling. That was basically us with our soldiers. We had 8 guys and we just kept recycling.
Yeah.
So they'd get shot, run off, come back and be somebody else 2 minutes later. So we made 8 guys look like 80, which is why they all wore gas masks.
Didn't they do something like this in Dad's Army once when they kept going round and round?
Wasn't that episode where they're on a church spire, aren't they?
Yeah.
They are. And it's every time it strikes the hour, there's a knight or something comes round and Jonesy gets set on it. Yeah. You go round and round in circles. Yeah.
It worked though. When you watch it on screen, you think there's
it's movie magic. Yeah, it's movie magic. It's what you do.
It's amazing.
So you film this in Sleaford and also in Norfolk, was it, with Dan's scenes?
That was in Norfolk, just outside of Norwich, in a place called Epic Studios. I think it's Epic EV Studios, which is basically on an old RAF base, and they've turned the old gymnasium into sound stages. We shot there for a week, but we were there for 2 weeks. Prepping.
And these were the tank scenes, were they?
They were the exterior tanks. So interior, we had two sets. We had there was 3 shoots. There was the miniature shoot, which was shot here in Ben's barn. Then there was the interior shoot of the tank, which was again shot in Ben's barn. And then we built the exterior tank and the shell hole in no man's land on a soundstage in Norfolk.
Yeah, it's a good space, wasn't it? It worked really well.
Yeah, I mean that's the most luxurious filming. I mean, apart from having to be away from home and eat burgers every day, it was a breeze compared to other stuff, really. And I thought the catering was marvellous.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, marvellous.
Do you know, it's things like that. It's sort of being warm and these things that you take for granted that actually make it kind of bearable because it's they're long days, aren't they? And
It's very long days.
You know, it's kind of hard work. Yeah.
It's the level of concentration, you know, that you need to be on stuff all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and you're tired because you've not been sleeping. You know, you're sleeping in a Premier Inn, and you're not getting back till late, and you're eating rubbish.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think if you did it, well, I remember saying when we were shooting we were finishing building the internal set, that we'd worked so hard, and Sam, the DOP, turned up when we were just about finishing up, really, and he said, "What's it been like?" And I went, "Honestly," I said, you know, in the film Everest, where they talk about the death zone, like you get to a point where, that basically, if you stay there, you're dead. This is where we've been for the last week. I said, because if you continued working like this, like how we've worked this last week, you would die. It's physically impossible to maintain this level of work. We were so exhausted, weren't we? It was absolutely killer, and you had no choice but to keep going because everybody was coming
So far in, and
you're in over your head.
Yeah.
You know, but Christ, we were tired, weren't we? We really were exhausted.
Was that on the Norfolk shoot?
No, that was that was very tiring, but it was just the fact that we needed to get that internal set built. In very, very difficult circumstances. It was very, very cold, and so things kept going wrong, and everything would take forever to dry, and the paint would take forever to dry, and of course you're kind of like you've designed it, but you're still designing stuff as you go, because it's still like, okay, well, how exactly is that roof going to fit, and how is that hatch going to work? So it's just the level of physical work getting that ready was absolutely killer. It was killer.
And we were still painting the floor on it until literally
The day before.
yeah.
And the next shoot was really tough too, because we had to bring in tons of soil by hand, you know, and then hoik it all out again.
Oh, did you have to get rid of it as well? Yeah, I suppose you would.
Take it
Wouldn't
all
you?
in, take it all out again.
Wow.
Yeah.
We took it all down in 2 days.
Really?
The whole set gone in 2 days.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What happened with the tank?
It went in a skip.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have been able to like hold itself up. It was on the floor, and if you tried to lift it, it would have crumbled. It was
Right.
deliberately built to.
It wasn't really transferable to anywhere.
Right.
People kept saying, "Well, we could have it." And you go, "Well, if you think you can come and get it, then by all means do." But
Yeah.
I would have challenged anybody with the greatest DIY skills in the world to take that apart and take it somewhere and rebuild it. It wasn't doable.
So it's made out of plywood.
Plywood, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it looks. I mean, I was on set looking at it, and it looks so real.
Yeah, well, we did a lot of work around the paint coverings. It needed to be a paint that would withstand people stamping all over it.
Yeah.
And it would cover really well and make, because even plywood has a grain
Yeah.
to it, as a surface grain to it, so it needed to cover to the point where you couldn't see that.
No.
No,
I was conscious of looking for the grain and couldn't really see it close up. And
no.
so on screen it did look like a metal tank.
Yeah,
That was amazing.
Well, the thing is, as well, that's where sound design comes in, because if you hit a piece of wood, but you replace the sound with someone hitting a piece of metal, it's a piece of metal.
Yeah.
It just works.
Yeah. Yeah. If you was to take away just one thing from the story of Landship, what would you hope it is?
Well, first of all, let's take home about how flipping lucky they are. Quite good. Christ almighty. All we do in this country these days is moan about everything that's wrong. And our lives are, it's a bit hot. That's the worst we've got to worry about.
It is hot though.
It is hot, Dan, but you're not being shot at. No one's actively trying to kill you, and you haven't been taken away from your loved ones. Everybody, that's one of take that away from it. People talk about the good, we get a lot of that. The good old days. Oh, we're going back to the good old days. Well, the good old days when you got called up and people tried to kill you. Yeah, brilliant. Let's go back to that, shall we? So take that away from it. Sorry,
No,
but I hope you take away from it that you've been to the cinema and had a really nice time. Because it's what we make these films. I want people to entertain. We went to see. Disclosure Day today, which was how many millions of pounds that cost to make, I do not know. I was as Maximus Aurelius, whatever his name is, I was not entertained. Whereas I think Landship is highly entertaining. I think it's a really entertaining film and it's informative. So yeah, I hope you take that away from it.
I think also the take away from it that the how close. Of course, we've dramatized certain elements, but how close that story is to a real life horror.
Yeah,
like they were living a horror movie, not knowing it. Like that's the thing. You could watch that film and go, "Oh, that's just a horror movie," but the fact that they went through that is something in itself.
Well, they're trapped in this metal tank, and it's all going on out. They can't see really what's going on outside. They don't know what their fate's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, in our version we've added smoke to kind of help with making it look like there were more Germans and that sort of thing, and to add that horror element. But the fact is, they were in a shell hole. They couldn't at night time. They wouldn't still be able to see very much at all. So it's still been very similar in terms of suddenly they're on top of you.
And the whole world is viewed through a slit or a periscope. You know, they're not. There's not much you can see stuck inside a tank in a shell hole.
No.
Yeah, the camera has the benefit of being able to go outside and film outside, but they didn't have that. They had tiny little viewing angles, and that was it.
Yeah, but I mean, with all our films, I always say, you know, and I know we live in a county that there's a lot of forces personnel and people serving in the armed forces. But one of the things that I like about our films and why we do concentrate a lot on the First and Second World War is because most of these people never intended to be soldiers or sailors or airmen.
Yeah,
they had no choice but to do it.
Yeah,
and you know, and they are. And I think there's a difference in, you know, I think if you join the armed forces and you've gone into it knowing full well, one day this might happen, that's a very different kettle of fish to going, well, 1 minute I was a clerk at a local firm of accountants, and the next thing I know, someone's telling me to take a rifle and expecting me not to sleep for weeks, and you know, just that shit that I can't even imagine what that must have been like. You know, and the peer pressure to join up, or you know, and be part of this hell. I think that's something that we don't appreciate today, and maybe that generation because they just got on with it. That was the other thing. People just seem to know, right? Okay, I'll take 4 years out of my life. I might not come back, and I'll just get on with it.
Yeah. We were having a conversation in the car travelling back from the premiere about tanks were new technology back then, and would the people in those tanks think that they were safe?
So they did think at first that it was going to be a safer place to be because they go, oh, we're surrounded by metal, but we're shielded. But actually, it was in some ways worse because if a bullet hit the side of that tank, it would send shards of paint flying, and it was all the fumes and that sort of thing they were breathing in. It was in some ways worse because you were also a target. The fact is, if you were spotted in no man's land, they would try and blow you up or shoot at you. So at first, yeah, they definitely. I think going from what we've read, they certainly thought it was a safer place to be, but
I think. We know about the stories of people just being sent out into no man's land, and the generals and all that pretty much knew they wouldn't come back. And I think maybe with that technology, they were sold that it was, you know, they were safe. And
no, well, it certainly wasn't. And I mean, it's just part of the evolution of warfare, and it's something that we came up with. We came up with the idea first, but we didn't really know how to use it.
Yeah.
So, you know, the battlefields of Passchendaele with the mud and the, you know, rain and the fact that the inclines are not the right place to use armour, which is why our crew end up stuck in a shell hole. And then later on at the Battle of Cambrai, where the circumstances were better and we had more tanks, because that's really the way tanks work best, when you have hundreds of them all moving across flat, dry land supported by infantry. But even then we got that wrong because we overextended ourselves and tanks ended up running out of fuel and the infantry couldn't keep up and that kind of thing. And to be honest with you, in the interwar years, therefore, then we didn't learn the lessons from it. It was the Germans that went away and learnt the lessons. And then by the time they decided to stomp across Europe, they had the use of armour and infantry down to a fine art. And that's how today it's still used. I mean, I suppose in some ways it's changed because modern tanks are able to, shoot the eyebrows off a fly from 10 miles away, probably. It's not so up close and personal as it was then.
Yeah.
But it was seen as a secret, an amazing secret weapon, an amazing opportunity. And I think what it did more than anything was it put the wind up the Germans. I mean, they're pretty scary things today. And if you'd seen that coming lurching across no man's land all those years ago, you'd have thought, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
And also it makes you think, well, hang on a minute, these British, they're pretty clever, they've come up with, look at what they've come up with, and so from a morale point perspective, they must have been, a huge success. But yeah, I think in terms of how their strategic and effectiveness was probably not that great.
Yeah.
So what's next for you guys then? Have you got any other projects up your sleeve? Are you going to stick to the World War genres, or do you fancy something different?
So we've got two things we're kind of actively. One is our main priority at the moment, but we have got two things we're working on at the moment. One is about the rearguard action of Dunkirk, and the other is a film that kind of is both set in the present day and World War One, and basically it's about a grandchild finding a diary of his great grandfather and learning something from that diary that he then takes forward into the present day. So we've got those two. We do want to make all sorts of things. We do kind of want to step away from the war genre at some point. That's why we also like this World War One idea, because it kind of goes.
It's a movement in it, just slightly stepping away.
Yeah, but yeah, at the moment that's where war films are where it's at the moment for us. But
it's hard because we do want to move away from it. We like all. If a film's good, it's good regardless of what the genre is or regardless of what the film's about. If it's a really well put together film, and I'm talking about sort of narrative drama,
it starts with a story.
It starts with a story,
Yeah.
100%. So where I think even though we're looking at doing next is still a war film, where it's very different is where our films have, I think they've grown in this way. They've become more and more focused on people and feelings and emotions and relationships. It's become more and more. They become more like that. And this film is steps further along that road, and says so many of the things that that trouble us or affect us in modern life were there present then too. We might have stifled them because society said that we must, and whether that would be same-sex relationships or whatever, but they still existed. And what we want to do is to explore more of those sort of parts of just the human condition, but using wartime as kind of like the magnifying glass to highlight those stories.
That's how it came across to me. The humanity and the human condition came across really strongly in Landship. It was about people, and their situation, and it was brilliantly acted, performed by Finn. You could see his turmoil, and
he's quite a good actor for an idiot, isn't he?
He's a brilliant actor.
Sorry, Finn, but you know I love you, but yeah,
he's a brilliant actor.
Yeah.
You did have some great actors.
Yeah.
I mean, Jack is just I can't wait to see how their careers. They're just they've got a big bright future in front of them.
Well, we see a lot of really good actors, but obviously they're not all right for certain parts. But because you have some ideas in your head about what you want, and that's sometimes is just the way someone looks, or it's just a swagger, something that they have, the X factor, I suppose. They have something, but they are all. I don't think that when we got to the last sort of 40, 50 actors for the auditions that there was a bad actor amongst them.
Oh, really?
There's a lot of talent out there. The
Yeah.
competition is, as Callum said, it was 4,000 or 5,000
That's
applicants
Wow.
for parts in this film. It's crazy, and a lot. I know a big chunk of those people are really good at what they do.
Yeah.
But it's just, there's just too many of us now, and that's the thing. The competition is just fierce for everything.
So it can go as superficial as having the right look, or having.
It's certainly a part.
Quite a big.
Yeah, it's it plays a part.
Yeah.
I mean, I would never say, for example, if a black actor had come to play the part for an audition, I would never go, well, no, none of the crew are black, so no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I would, but it isn't about that. It's actually about more than that. It's about sometimes just about physicality.
Yeah.
It's just about how they hold themselves. I mean, someone like Ricky is a classic case in point. He turned up with just this, he turned up with a black eye for starters. So we wanted somebody who was a bit of a scrapper. So he turned up with a black eye, and he'd been in some sort of punch up the day before. He was a character, but slightly. You might have thought maybe slightly dangerous, but he actually is a sweetheart. But the minute he walked in, it was just like he's got it. He is that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would certainly, when I say looks, it would be, it's like, for someone to play, we wanted to play, like Daniel, for example, playing Hayton, we wanted somebody slightly built because he was quite delicate character, so, we wanted that. So we didn't want somebody like Alan Richardson and like Jack Reacher. It wouldn't fit him in the tank.
Yeah. Is there a story that you've always wanted to tell but haven't yet had the chance to make?
We want to do Pegasus Bridge one day. That's kind of if we can make a film which is based on like a true events that we'd like to do. That's probably number one, I'd say. Yeah. That's why it's something that we've been kind of wanting to do. In terms of like it's an amazing story, and it's kind of the British Band of Brothers in a way. Also in Fright Ryan, it's got that history behind it, and that the name means something to people.
And it's just got so much of that. I mean, I don't know if you know anything about that tale.
No.
So basically, Pegasus Bridge was one of several bridges that were key to the D-Day landings. So before the beach landings could take place, airborne troops had to go in and take strategic points and take out gun emplacements, that kind of thing. But there was bridges over the Orne Canal that needed to be Pegasus Bridge was a bridge that needed to be taken, and it was decided it would be taken by glider-borne troops. So the Ox and Bucks light infantry were converted to airborne and trained in being deployed in gliders. But these guys trained like you wouldn't believe. They were storming bridges left, right, and centre, month after month after month after month. By the time they were ready to go, they were like crackerjack. They were the best you could be. A lot of them were sort of rapscallions, because John Howard was the commanding officer. He kind of he knew that people who were actually slightly dodgy, cheeky chappies, people that might get into a fight down a pub or steal something from the naffy, were brilliant when it came to when they were on the ground. And he needed a scrapper, we need a fighter. So anyway, it was almost an impossible task. They wanted to land 4 gliders right by the bridge on D-Day.
Really tiny strip of land.
Tiny strip of land. They didn't know what the defences were going to be there because they put up something. What do they call them? Asparagus poles or something that these poles up the Germans did to stop gliders. So they didn't know whether they put those up. Anyway,
I didn't even know gliders were a thing.
Yeah. Anyway, so what happens is D-Day. They go in. They land. The flying was described as some of probably the greatest, most skilled piloting of the entire war, because they get released by being tethered by a bomber, by a Halifax bomber. Then it's literally just dead reckoning and then changing course on a stopwatch with a compass and go and change course and they land bang on the side of the bridge. Literally,
wow.
The nose of the first glider actually takes out the barbed wire, and they storm the bridge, and they've got to hold that bridge until they're relieved, which they do. But the Germans obviously come back, and basically it's a story about how they had to hold that bridge,
Right.
For until they basically it was Lord Lovett's Marines relieved them, and it was one of those things where it should never have worked, but it did.
Right.
And one of the first, he wasn't actually the first man to die on D-Day, but he was the first to be wounded. He was mortally wounded. A young officer called Den Brotheridge, he stormed across the bridge and was shot in the throat. It's just an amazing tale of bravery, and you just think the balls of these people was just insane. You know, like the Germans deployed an armoured car. There was a character called Wagger Thornton who just stepped out with a Piat gun, which is a really basic anti-tank weapon. I mean, it was like a spring-loaded rubbish,
Right.
and just steps out and just takes it out, you know, and just mad bravery.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, so we'd love to tell that tale.
Wow.
Yeah.
So much material from the World Wars to draw on, isn't there? So many stories.
Yeah.
Right, one final question. This is something that we like to ask all our guests. What is your favourite place in Lincolnshire?
I always get a buzz out of seeing Lincoln Cathedral. I always get a buzz out of seeing it. And if I'm driving along Tritton Road or whatever and I see it, it always impresses me. I always think how beautiful it is. And I think to myself, no, I think that now. Imagine what people must have thought in the 12th century when they looked at that.
Oh God, yeah.
What on earth
I
is
think
that?
the spire was much
It was
higher,
the tallest.
wasn't it?
It was the tallest building in Europe, wasn't it? For 250 years or something. Yeah. So that I'm very fond of Lincoln. I really like Lincoln. And to be honest with you, I mean Sleaford's a bit batty, isn't it? It's all a bit batty, but I really like that about it. It's slightly bonkers, Sleaford, and I think that. And I didn't know them. I've lived up here for 24 years, and I immediately was drawn to it. I was drawn to the people, and we've had some amazing encounters with some really kind and generous people. But what I like is there is a sort of
An eccentricity.
there is an eccentricity, a current eccentricity that runs through Sleaford that I don't think there are many places in the country quite like it.
No,
Yeah,
I understand what you
like
mean.
the Chris Clarks of this world. Do you know what I mean? Sleaford seems to have more than its fair share of nutters, but good nutters.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think we're the same.
Kind-hearted.
We're the same. Do you know what I mean?
I think you fall in that category.
Yeah, just like kind of punching above your weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, having a go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm fond of Sleaford, but yeah, I would say Lincoln Cathedral always gets me going. And obviously, if I see, but that isn't a sort of place. But you know, you go through, you drive through Coningsby, and you get maybe the Lancaster will go over, and it's pretty cool, isn't it? It's pretty cool.
I was driving up to Lincoln not so long ago, and the Red Arrows were there doing their thing, and I think we kind of take it for granted, don't we? Yeah. But you can't not be amazed by it.
Yeah,
we're very lucky.
Yeah,
totally agree. I think Lincoln Cathedral. It's I was looking at it the other day, and it is amazing.
Stanford.
It's beautiful, Stanford. Yeah,
really lovely.
Yeah.
We're like Kinnemar in the Woods in terms of
we
always keeping on subject in
Yeah.
terms of like people. We spoke to someone today at the cinema. They're like, I've never been. Like, you need to go to Kinnemar in the Woods, and it's an experience.
It's a little gem, isn't it?
It's a gem
in the woods.
Yeah.
And I've not been to another cinema like it.
No, and it's run by people who love what they do as well. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And they've still got your poster up, I think.
I think they couldn't quite believe what happened with Lancaster Skies. It just kept selling out there.
Yeah.
I think Landship will do well there.
Is that due to play there?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's out Friday there.
yeah. We're there next week. We do
You're doing a Q&A, aren't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were there on the first.
I think they put on another screening. I
Right.
think there wasn't a screening on Monday, and they put a screening on Monday now. I mean, they're all doing pretty well. I don't think the Q&A sold out, but the others have still got tickets free.
I mean, I don't think there's anywhere quite like it in the country. There are some interesting cinemas, but that is really probably the quirkiest.
It's very unique.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
With the Wurlitzer coming up and that kind of thing. Yeah, it's very cool.
Great choices. Just before you go, where can people find more about you and Tin Hat Productions?
So you can find us on Facebook and Instagram, and then we've got our website tinhatproductions.com, as well as landshipfilm.com. So you can find everything there about Landship, when it's coming out and where it's screening and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, guys.
No worries, thank you.
It's brilliant. Yeah, it's great. Today's episode of Strong Links was brought to you by Danson Property Services, where quality work meets local care. From reliable maintenance jobs to property refurbs, call Danson Property Services today. See you next time.